Hello, this is Jim McKeeth, and welcome to RAD Mobile Boot Camp Day 1, FireMonkey, the Fire UI, and Platform Services. The URL you see there will take you to the page that's going to have the replay and additional resources for this as they become available. Again, my name is Jim McKeeth. I'm the Chief Developer Advocate and Engineer for Embarcadero Technologies. I'm a longtime software developer, over 20 years of software development. I've done web development, client development, server-side development, using Delphi. I started with Turbo Pascal, C++, C#, Java, JavaScript, all sorts of languages. Delphi is my favorite. That's why I'm here. My claim to fame, though, is I invented and patented the pattern and swipe to unlock you see on Android and iOS back in early 2000s. There's the patent numbers there. You can look them up. It was I was working for a company that had a patent program, and I had a patent for drawing a geometric shape to authenticate yourself to a computer system. And kind of had forgotten about it. And then I saw a headline a while back during the big Samsung iOS lawsuit. And it said, Apple didn't invent swipe to unlock, Jim McKeeth did. And I'm like, wait a second, that's my name. So I went and looked in some of my patents I had. And sure enough, I saw that patent again. And I was like, oh my goodness, there it is. So pretty exciting. It's my claim to fame, so I'm going to put it on my slides here. Also host a podcast at delphi.org, and I recently contributed to the book, The Internet of Things and Data Analytics Handbook. That's a big handbook. If you want to get some overview of Internet of Things and Data Analytics, you might want to check that out. So here's our agenda for the boot camp for the week. Today we're doing FireMonkey, Fire UI, and Platform Services. Tomorrow we're going to look at some platform specifics for iOS and Android. And then on day 3, we're going to look at creating, consuming REST services and service-oriented architectures. Today, this is the agenda what we're going to cover. Really a lot of stuff to cover. This ended up being more than I expected it to be, but that's fine. Hopefully you're ready to learn and excited to get going. So I like to start with the resources for getting started slide. This is the resources slide we're going to see repeated again at the end. Just in case you're wanting to follow along, the Doc Wiki is your friend. There's a ton of great information in the Doc Wiki. The documentation is so hugely improved. I'm always using the Doc Wiki as a reference to look things up and find out how to do things. There is also a link there for mobile tutorials. And then another website I use a lot is Delphi Basics. This is maintained by somebody else over in the UK. This one is a great quick reference if I'm looking up like how to do a string format or something like that. So it's very basics around RTM. And then Bruce McGee recently published a list of guides for getting started with Delphi, which are also pretty good there. So check that one out. There's some good information on that. So if you're wanting to follow along or you're wanting to be involved in this boot camp, real quickly, I'm going to talk about RAD Studio, be mostly showing Delphi, but everything here will work with Delphi or C++ Builder, although I'm not really showing C++ code, but I'm not writing a whole lot of code for most of the examples I'm doing. You can use the trial version, which is the Enterprise Edition of RAD Studio, if you do not own RAD Studio, Delphi, or C++ Builder. If you do own Delphi or C++ Builder, if you have the Pro Edition, then you'll need to use the mobile add-on pack. What we're doing the mobile doesn't work in the free starter edition, so you either need to have Pro with mobile add-on or the Enterprise Edition or RAD Studio. If you have RAD Studio, then it includes mobile add-on pack. I'm going to be using 10.2 Tokyo. Most of this will be similar to 10.0 Seattle or 10.1 Berlin, and maybe earlier versions as well. Your mileage may vary. There may be some changes and some subtle differences, but generally the stuff I'm showing you will apply out there as well. Also, if you need instructions on setting up your iOS device and your Android device, you can find those there. So with that, let's go ahead and create your first mobile app. There's a great tutorial in the Doc Wiki. I'm not following it exactly, but if you follow that along, you'll pick up a lot of the main details. So this is going to assume that you've already got RAD Studio, Delphi, or C++ Builder installed and set up correctly. Once you get in here, you can come here to the Tutorials tab, and these tutorials will walk you through setting up your machine for Android development or iOS and OS X development. So you can check those out there. That's a great information as far as how to get to that point. Also, you can go to the documentation tab, and here you can go in and find the tutorials that we have and create your first application. That's the VCL one. Let's go back. Let's go up and up to tutorials. Creating mobile application. So this is kind of what we're going to do here for now. I'm going to use Delphi, but there's like very little code in here. You can also use C++ for everything we're doing in this part. So we're going to here, start here. I'm going to choose multi-device application. Now, if you come here to File, New, you'll see there's VCL Forms application and multi-device application under both C++ and Delphi. VCL Forms application is Windows only. Multi-device application will go for Windows, Mac OS, iOS, and Android. And there's some third-party add-ins that let you use that to target Linux as well with the Linux compiler. So we're going to go ahead and choose multi-device Delphi application. And you can choose one of these other ones here if you want to have kind of some template to get started. But I'm going to go ahead and go with this blank application here. And there we have it. So now I kind of like to reformat this, resize this to be more in a portrait type format like you would for a phone, since we're targeting phones. There's some tricks I can show you for that later, but for right now, that's good enough. And I'm going to put down an edit box. Go here to the object, or the tool palette, sorry, and type edit. And here's an edit box. So we'll put that down. And let's put down a button. Put the button down there. And we'll do a label. And so the button will say, come here to Object Inspector, text, change the button text to be go. There we go. That's a nice descriptive label, right? Or descriptive button. And I can double click on the button or go to the events on click event, which is right here, just like you would with the VCL. And we'll say label1.text equals edit1.text. And we'll say hello, edit1.text. Okay. So by default, this runs on Windows. Now, a really nice thing about this is you can do most of your, or a lot of your development here on Windows. So I can check my form layout. I can check my basic functionality. So I'll type my name here, hit go, hello, Jim. So I can see all this works on Windows. That's great because it's real fast turnaround time. I don't need any special hardware or setup or anything like that. Now, once you're ready to test it on device, what you really need to do in order to know if this is going to work is test it on an actual physical device. Then you can come in here and change your target platform. You can do it either via this drop down here, or I find myself always coming over here, target, and expanding this out. So let's go ahead and, you know what, let's test on the simulator first. And I'm going to choose the iPhone 5 simulator. And the reason I'm doing that is because it's a little bit shorter and it fits on my screen better for when I'm doing screen recordings. The bigger ones just are too tall and they don't fit on the screen as well. So you'll notice it's automatically launching the iPhone simulator. Oh, and it popped up here. Let's see. Oh, there it is. There's the iPhone simulator. So I've also got my other ones running here for just a moment, but right now we'll use this, and I'll type my name here. We'll say Boot Camp for now. And it didn't fit. You know why it didn't fit is because my label was too small. So that's actually really good. That wasn't intentional, but we'll pretend like it was. So I can go like this and say, what does this look like on iOS? And you notice how it changed the style and some of the layout stuff automatically, so it's a little bit taller. But this got a lot smaller. See that? And so I can come in here and say auto size. And now let's run this again on the simulator. And so now I know that that's not going to be big enough, but I changed it to auto size, which I should have done in the first place. Let's come back over here. And now when I come in here and type boot camp, there you go. says Hello Boot Camp. So it resized it down. But if I wanted to make it wider, I can do that here as well just by stretching it out. So that's great. iOS Simulator is a nice fast turnaround as well. But let's go ahead and deploy it to actual hardware. So I'm going to choose iOS device 64. And from here, it'll give me a list of all the devices that are available for me to deploy to. And so let's go ahead and deploy it to the iPad mini. Now, the way I'm doing the screen sharing here is I'm using QuickTime. And if you go to QuickTime and just hit the little new recording, hit the little drop down here, you can select your device. And here's the app running on my iPad mini. And I can't type on here, so I got to go over to my iPad. And we'll say, hello, iPad. And hit go. And you'll see, because I typed hello in there, so it said, hello, hello, iPad. And now it's horizontal because I changed that layout before deploying it. All right, so now let's go ahead and deploy it to my iPad mini, or I'm sorry, my Android. And we can preview this on Android. What will this look like on Android? Okay, that works. And we'll go ahead and hit deploy to the Android device. So let's go here, Android. Let's find my Pixel XL. Now, when deploying to an Android, you don't need a Mac on your network anywhere to deploy to it. You can deploy straight to the Android, which is definitely a bonus. In this case, I do have my mirroring software running on my Mac, and it's not mirroring anymore. So hold on, we refresh the mirroring. There we go. Now it's launched, and you missed the application started up automatically. So now I can come in here and type, and again, I can't type in here because it's just mirroring it. But type hello or type Android. Hit OK. It says hello Android. So there we go. We've deployed it to all 3 devices successfully. 4 devices, I guess. Also, we've deployed it to the Windows and the simulator. Could deploy it to iOS or Mac OS as well, but unless that's specifically your target, it doesn't really add any value to your development process. So a couple things here we're going to do now is let's go ahead and add a style book on here, okay? TYLE book. Now, style books are what you use to apply custom styles. Now, as you noticed, as I switch between the different OSs, it switches to the correct style for that OS. That's automatic. All right. But sometimes you want to customize your style, give it a different style, especially on Android. Android actually has a few built-in styles that you can choose from. This is using the default style, but you can change that as well. And the way you do that is through a style book. So I'm going to come in here and on the form, set the style book property to style book 1, which is the style book I just put down there, and double click on the style book. And we're going to click the open property here. And I have a shortcut for styles here. Styles. And my all-time favorite style is called transparent. And then we just close this, say yes, I want to save it. So this is the transparent style. I love this style. I just use it for everything. But there's lots of other styles to choose from. Some of them have different themes, and then there's our style pack that you can use. And so you notice this style is the same on all the platforms. But again, it resizes the size of those components based on the platform you're on, right? So their buttons get bigger on the mobile platform, so they're easier to touch. Plus, I like this better on iOS because the button actually has borders. I don't know why Apple decided to get rid of the borders on iOS, but with this style, you can bring the borders back. Or some of the other styles support that as well. So let's go ahead and launch this again. And I'll launch this on, let's go ahead and launch it on Windows just for quick turnaround time here, just so you can see it in action. Transparent. Go, hello, transparent. So now let's talk about platform default behavior. This is a really amazing thing about FireMonkey that I call this smart styles. It's not the official branding, but that's what I like to think of it as. Because what this does is it lets the styles, lets the UI controls know how to change their behavior, change their appearance to fit best on each platform. So many properties have a platform default value, which changes what that value means on different platforms. You can also use the styled settings property to override whether or not styles can override things like font, text parameters and such. And then you can also use the control type property to change it from styled to platform. So styled means it's rendered by the styling engine on the GPU, whereas platform replaces that control with a platform native control. There's only a few places that makes a big difference, and it's only currently implemented on Windows and iOS. It's going to come to Android in the near future as well, and I'll show you an example of what that looks like and how that's different there. This is the multi-view demo that ships with Delphi, RAD Studio, and C++ Builder. And the multi-view is one of my favorite controls. It's this control right here. If you go to the structure panel, you can see it. It's holding a list box and a toolbar. That's the toolbar. There's the list box. And what the multi-view does is it can either act like a drawer control, or it can be a popover control, or has a number of different behaviors. And those behaviors are controlled by this property here, the multi-view mode property. So you'll notice the default property for this is platform behavior, but you can also change it to panel, popover, navigation pane, or drawer. Now, if you leave it as platform behavior, then on each of the different platforms, when you run the application, it will change its behavior to match that platform. Okay. So for example, on an iPad, if you turn the iPad vertical versus horizontal, or portrait versus landscape, it will change its behavior. So actually, let's go ahead and run this on the iPad, and I'll show you here. So we can still use the style here to change what we're looking at. Actually, before we do deploy this, I'll show you this one more thing here. On here is a tab control. Okay. The tab control has on the tab position, it's set to platform default. And the reason that's important is because on Windows, iOS 10 and Android, the platform specification says your tabs should be at the top of the tab control. But on iOS, it says the tab should be at the bottom of the tab control. And so by leaving your tab position set to platform default, then your tabs can switch automatically. You don't have to write any code for that. You don't have to put any thought into that. And the styles and the UI behaves and adapts automatically to the platform you're running it on. So let's go ahead and take a look at this on my iPad mini here. So here it is. Notice that the tabs are down at the bottom because that's the default behavior for this platform. And right now, the list view is visible on the side. But when I turn this to portrait, notice that it disappeared. But when I tap the little details button, it pops over as a drawer control. So just like you expect it to behave on that platform. So that's a really good example of that behavior. It looks a little weird when I rotate it, and that's probably because of the mirroring. It looks differently on the device itself, but there you go. That's the behavior for the tab control, or behavior for the multi-view. So a few other places this shows up is, and I'll just put a button down here because that'll be easier. So I have this button here, and the button has a, close this. It has a height of 44, but it also has a property down here called size. Okay. And if I expand the size, it has the height and width here, which you can edit this and it's attached to the other one, but also has this property here, platform default. And so what that means is the button size is set to the platform default. Now see, I resized it and it lost that, but I put the check mark back here and there we go. But see, if I go to Windows, see the button's height changed because it's set to the platform default height. And so if you leave that on your buttons, the button size, the height can change based on the platform it's on. Edit boxes have that. Most of your controls have that because on touch devices, you need to have a larger space for your finger to get into. Your finger is not as accurate as a mouse cursor. You can't see it, but I'm pointing with my finger at the screen to show that. But you know what I'm talking about. So that's one place that's important that shows up. Showed you the tab controls. The tab position shows up that way. Oh, and then also I was going to show you the style. Let's see. Styled settings. Okay. Now, this means that the style can add information in it about the font family, the size of the item, the style of the item, and the font color and other. So you can come in here, and if you want to override the behavior that's introduced by a style, you can uncheck these boxes here in order to make your preferences override the style. Otherwise, when you apply a style, that style can then change the look and feel, the size, or the font and stuff like that, etc. So this is a way you can control that and override the style. Otherwise, the style is going to apply its smart platform-specific behavior in order to have your application look and act like it should on each platform. Platform services is a FireMonkey interface that defines some functionality that may or may not be implemented on a particular platform or runtime. And it's implemented differently across each of those platforms. This is something else that lets you make your applications really robust so that you don't have to worry about what platform you're on, but you just write your code and you say, well, if this platform supports this service, then do this. If it doesn't, then do this or do nothing. So it makes it really easy for your code to be more flexible and more robust. You can also implement your own platform services to either replace existing ones or add new features if you want to make libraries that you're using across platforms as well. So a quick sample showing you how to use platform services. We don't ship a sample for this, but this code comes pretty much verbatim from the doc wiki, which I just showed you the link for. So I have two uses clauses about it here. fmx.platform contains most of the platform services, but fmx.clipboard contains this extended clipboard service. So there's a regular clipboard service in platform, but the extended one is in fmx clipboard. So the way you work with platform services is you need an instance, a reference, or you need an interface reference here that you're going to use and pass it to the platform services current, and then you call supports platform service. And supports platform service takes the GUID, the interface, which has a GUID attached to it, for the service you're trying to find, which is the one we're using an instance of, and then the reference that we want back. Okay. And so what that's going to do is it's going to give us back a instance. If this returns true, it'll give us back an instance or a reference to that instance. Okay. And then we can then use the clipboard service in here. And we get access to has text, get text, set text, and then the extended one adds the has image, get image, set image, and the ability to set and register and check for other formats as well. So that's what you get with the extended one. So what this does, though, is we can say basically what we're saying here is if this platform supports the extended clipboard service, then we're going to work with the extended clipboard service in here. And then we can have other code down here that says else, do something else, or just don't do that behavior. So this makes it really, really easy for you to deal with some lower level platform behaviors, but in a platform agnostic way. All right. So you don't have to know which platform you're on and if the platform has a clipboard or not. You just use the extended clipboard service. And if that platform supports it, you get that behavior. FireUI it's like a collection of technologies that expand FireMonkey and the IDE designers. So FireMonkey came out quite a while ago. FireUI is a fairly recent addition to it and adds a number of really nice new features. You have the app preview, which gives you immediate preview of your UI on multiple platforms. And that's a little window you can open up. It's by default over in the upper right-hand corner, but you can expand it, make it bigger, put it on another monitor, whatever you want to do. And it gives you a real-time preview of your app on multiple ranges of devices. You can also, this is probably one of the coolest features, you can create customized views or variant views of your layout. And so what this does is it lets you create a main master view. And then you say, okay, but on iOS or on iPhone, I want to do this. I want to move this around, arrange this differently. On the iPad, I want to add some buttons or add some things on there. On Android, we're going to do something a little differently over here as well. And so the great thing is you design your master once, and then you just tweak it just a little bit on all the other platforms as you need to. And then FireUI Live Preview lets you view your UI on physical devices in real time. I'm going to load a style here on my style book. Let's go for the Windows 10 Modern Blue style. So now we've loaded a style here just for Windows 10. So you'll see a variety of devices here. All of these are connected to my IDE. This is my iPad mini. Notice there's no wires on these devices. They're connected wirelessly over Wi-Fi using the app tethering technology because they're all on the same network. So iPad mini running iOS, Android phone running Android, Dell tablet running Windows 10, my IDE is running on Windows 10 here, and then over here is my MacBook Pro running OS 10. Now all of them are running the Live Preview application. So now I can connect any of these to the IDE and get the live preview. So let's go ahead and start with the iPad here. Hit connect. So it's got the preview up on the iPad here. Now you'll notice right away that the screen is not blue, it's white, and that's because the blue theme I have loaded is the Windows 10 Modern Blue theme. So it only shows up on Windows 10, doesn't show up on the iPad. Also, the tabs have moved from the top to the bottom because on Windows, tabs go on the top, on iOS, tabs go on the bottom. If I make a change, like let's add a button on here. You don't see the border on iOS, but the button is there. You'll see it says button 1. If I change tabs, it also changes tab on the iPad. And also the iPad is live, so I can tap on the iPad and edit this. And that's because the user interface is running, but it is not actually running the code behind. So if there was something that happened on the text box change, that wouldn't happen. So now let's connect the Android device here. So we'll just tap on Studio and hit connect. And we'll see it connects. And again, as I make changes, like for example, changing tabs, it changes tabs. And you'll notice on Android, again, the tabs are on the top, whereas iOS, the tabs are on the bottom. So let's go ahead and add Windows 10. We'll just tap on the item we want and hit connect. And we'll see there's the window appeared on Windows 10. Now this time you'll notice it is blue. That's because it's got the Windows 10 theme applied to it. So we see it in with the Windows 10 theme, the blue theme. And now let's go ahead and do the OS 10. And on here we'll just tap the one we want and hit connect. And it connects and brings it up. And it's not blue. And that's because, like I said, the theme is only for Windows 10, so it'll show up on Windows 10. You can manage live preview in the IDE here. If you just go to the FireUI Live Preview page in Preferences. In here, this allows you to turn it on and off, allows you to change your server name, which is the name of your IDE, how it'll show up on the devices. And then you can also set a password if you want to prevent other devices from connecting to your IDE if you work in an environment with other developers. Also, you get a list of all the connected devices, the device name, and the OS that they're running. And from here, you can select one and disconnect it if you want to. So there we go. We're previewing across 4 devices, Windows 10, iOS, Android, and OS 10, with the new live preview feature of FireUI. LiveBindings and Databases. This is really, really cool. Someplace I think Delphi really shines. Delphi and C++ Builder really shines. LiveBindings allows you to visually bind your control properties and values at design time. And then FireDAC makes it really easy to work with different databases. The embedded databases that are supported are SQLite, Interbase Lite, and IB2Go. There's a couple of links to it, overviews and tutorials. And I'm also going to show you how you use the deployment manager to deploy files like your database file to the different platforms that you want to work with. We're going to create a simple to-do list application using FireDAC on mobile that'll kind of walk you through FireDAC and LiveBindings. We're going to start with a blank application. And we're going to start with our UI, which is pretty simple. We're going to start with a toolbar at the top. And on here, we're going to put 2 buttons. And this button we will align right, and we'll give it a style lookup of add item button. And this one we will align left, and we'll give it a style lookup of delete item button. And now a list view in the middle with an alignment of client. So we're going to use FireDAC to persist the to-do list. And FireDAC, the heart of FireDAC, is the FD connection. So put down an FD connection component, and we double click on it to configure it. We could use IB, IB Lite. Both of those are embeddable databases. We're going to use SQLite here. And we specify the database file name. And this is the file name that's going to be used to store the data. So we're just going to call it .sdb. Okay. And the location of that doesn't really matter. Well, I guess it does. We are going to change the locking mode from exclusive to normal, though. And test. No password. Connection established successfully. On the login dialog, or the FD connection, we're going to turn off login prompt, just because we don't get prompt by the login every time, because there is no username and password. So now we're going to put down an FD query. And this is going to be our create table query. And you notice it automatically connects to the FD connection, which is great. We'll change the name here. FD query create table. And we double click on it to edit it. And we put in our SQL statement. Create table if not exists, item, shop item, text not null. So we're going to create a one column table. And we've actually executed that now and created it. We could right click on it here and execute it as well. The great thing about this is you can do all this at design time, which I really love about FireDAC. And now we're going to use some live bindings to put some data, bind some data to this here. So we're going to say bind visually. We're going to use the wizard here to create a new data source. Data source, FireDAC. And we're going to use a query instead. The query is much more powerful than the table. I always use queries with FireDAC. Select star from, oops. And test it. Yep, succeeded successfully. Next, and we're done. We're not going to put a navigator in here. So there we go. There is our bind source and our FD query. So now we can bind the query, the bind source to the list view. So you drag the asterisk over first. So it's actually bound now at this point, and we'll put the shop item in the text. So the first one, this keeps it in synchronized. So when you select something in here, it selects it in the FD query, which is right here. This is FD query we're using. This is our main query. Now, we only need this one query to do the lookups, inserts, and deletes, and I'll show you how. So let's go ahead and do the delete first. And so what we're going to do is we're going to say FD query 1 dot delete. And this will delete the currently selected record automatically. So let's go ahead and do the add now. Actually, I need to add something to my users clause here. fmx dot dialog service dot async, because I'm going to use an asynchronous dialog here, and I'm going to need IO utils later, so I'll go ahead and add that now. So t dialog service async query. This is actually fairly recent. It's only showed up. I can't remember if it was in Berlin or Tokyo that showed up. The dialog service makes it easier to do these asynchronous dialogues. And we give it a prompt, new item, and we're not going to have a new value here. Or we say what the item is going to be called, and we're not going to have any values. And this is set up so you can actually have multiple values that they enter, which is pretty powerful, but we just want one this time. Now, normally, there's two different ways you can do this. You can have this point to another procedure, another event handler, or my favorite way is as an anonymous method. And you just got to define the signature correctly. And begin, end. So there we've declared an anonymous method that we're going to use as the handle the callback on here, which I like better than especially with callbacks than having it point to another method, another event handler. So in here we're going to say if a result equals OK. So if they hit OK and length trim a values 0 is greater than 0. So if they actually entered a value in there and hit OK, then we're going to go ahead and say fd query 1 dot insert record. And so this is going to insert a new record in here. So that's one thing I love about this FD queries is I can write a custom query in there, but then still insert and delete records from the table as well. Okay, so with the insert record values, you specify array of values to insert. In this case, my array is just one item, and it is the first item in that array. There. And last but not least, we're going to update our delete button status. Update delete button status, which I haven't written this yet, so let's go ahead and write that now. Go over here and make it private. Control Shift up to jump up, and Control Shift C to do class completion. Control Shift down to jump back down again. And now we're going to say, oh, I didn't name my buttons. Generally, as a rule of thumb, as I name things as soon as I reference them in code. Delete button dot visible equals list view, and here I'm not naming my list view, but that's okay. Selected item does not equal nil. All right, so we're going to make sure if there's an item selected, then we will enable the button. If there's no item selected, then the button is not enabled. So we're also going to do that on a list item clicked. We're going to say, so as soon as they enter in here, we're going to update that. So if they tap on the list, then they can select something from the list, then they can delete it. And we're going to add a couple events on the FD connection. We're going to say before connect, and in here, we're going to set up the query for if that the connection for when that table's on a different device. So this is going to look to see if we're compiling for Android or iOS on the mobile platform. Database. Apparently my code completion is not working, so I need to build. So project. Oh, I renamed something. Oh, yeah, I did. That's right. Oh, that's right, because I'm not building for Android, so this code doesn't get. It's because the same routine that runs the compiler also runs in the IDE, and so this changes to defines, and so that's not getting called. That's what's going on there. And tpath. So this tpath is in IOUtils. Combine path dot get documents path. So documents path is the path to the documents folder, which on mobile devices is part of the bundle. And we'll call this todo.sdb. That's the name of the file we're using. So what this is going to do is going to put the to-do list file Just going to put the to-do list file inside the bundle, or reference the to-do list file in the bundle. And then after connect, we're going to always run our create table query here. That way, if the SQL file gets deleted or doesn't get deployed, we'll just recreate it again, and we update the delete button's status. Okay, so at this point, the code's all done. I can run this now on Windows. Oops, that's running on Android. Let's run this on Windows. And we'll say deploy on Windows is our first item we'll add. And we've done that. And so now we can delete it. Oh, that didn't show up. Oh, that's right, because I deleted that code. Let's see. Design here on click is, oops, click is button one click, because I renamed it. That's what happened. So deploy on Windows, that's done. So let's go ahead and make a new one here of deploy on Android. And so we'll remove deploy on Windows. So before we can deploy on Android, though, we need to deploy that SQL or the SQLite file to Android. And the way we do that is with the deployment manager. So we go to Project, Deployment, and we are going to, oh, actually, I need to switch to Android. So all configurations Android, and we're going to add a file, and there's the to-do list right there. And we change the remote path to and that is the location for the documents folder on inside the Android bundle. And we're going to do it for both debug and release. And we'll also do this for iOS 64-bit. The path's different, though. It is startup documents. Okay, so to-do.sdb, make sure that is the same name. I'm referencing it here. Oops, capitalization matters. To-do.sdb. It is case sensitive, so we would end up two different files would end up pointing to the same place. But now we can deploy this to Android. So it's connecting to Pixel XL, and let's go ahead and hit deploy. So here's my Android mirroring here with Reflector. And there it is. Deploy on Android is done. So, whoops, I have to tap over here. So we're creating a new to-do item now to deploy it on the iOS. And we'll delete the Android one. Now, that item's not going to get synchronized back to my desktop because at this point, the data file is not being copied back and forth anymore. But we've done it anyway. So let's go back here and let's change this to deploy to iOS 64-bit, which is my iPad mini. There's the app. And see, deploy on Android still there. But I can add a new one. Celebrate. So we've already deployed on Android, so remove that. And now all that's left to do is to celebrate. So there you go. Pretty easy, pretty straightforward to create a database application for both iOS and Android. Okay, that was a lot to cover. Hopefully you got a lot out of this. For more information, check out these links here for the Doc Wiki, and there's the link down at the bottom, probably the most important one, that will be the link to the replays and all this information and more. And with that, if you're here for the live webinar, we're going to do Q&A. If you have any questions, go to put in the question panel there and go to webinar, and we'll get them answered for you. There's already a few in here. We'll see what we can get through here for you. The question here, if iOS is dropping 32-bit support, iOS 11. You know what? I did not watch the details on the iOS 11 announcement, so I'm not really sure on that for sure. So yeah, I'm not sure on that. It could be that they're doing that because they have had the required universal apps that have both 64-bit and 32-bit 2-bit for a while now. So it could be that they are finally doing that. Wouldn't be surprised. So I'd have to check with Apple. I was rather busy this week and haven't had a chance to watch all the details in WWDC. Are there plans for an update for Berlin Update 2? I don't know that there's plans for a Berlin Update 2, but there is plans for a new update for Tokyo. There may be a backport for Berlin where we backport some of the new features from Tokyo to Berlin, but I don't know the details on that. I know we usually do that and have a backport so that you can get some of the features of Tokyo for Berlin if you are on an update subscription, but I don't know the status of that or when that's scheduled for. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Wolfgang. I wanted to cover enough information to make it educational, but not so much as to overflow you. So hopefully that was where we got. So there is a provisioning profile that's needed. That's it covered in the setting things up, the setting up steps, which I'll give you a link for that here. So here is a tutorial on setting up for iOS, and it covers how to do the provisioning profile. Once you have that set up correctly, it works fine for iOS device deployment, but I didn't want to go through all those steps there because it's already covered fairly well in the documentation and the there's a get set up video. So there's a question about renewing your subscription directly from Embarcadero or do you need through a reseller. It depends on where you're located at. We have reseller partners we work with in different areas. You may be able to just do it directly through our website, or you have to go through a reseller depending on where you're located at. So if you go to Embarcadero.com and you can see what options are there, or try contacting Embarcadero and see if you get directed to a reseller. It just has to do with business arrangements and such. Some banks in Netherlands are dropping Windows Mobile support due to low market share. They plan to leverage the responsiveness of their website to serve these devices. Microsoft denies any plans to drop Windows Mobile. Do you think Windows Mobile will ever gain significant market share? No, I don't think Windows Mobile is going to gain. Well, okay. I'll come back to your question, Peter, because I have some opinions on this, but I'm not going to get into that just yet. Samsung's trying to push Tizen to their smart TVs and the smartwatches. It's hard to say on Tizen. Let's see. How to do multi-language? Are you talking, Patrick, are you talking about like support different languages in your UI? Because we have some internationalization and translation utilities. I'm honestly cannot say I'm not incredibly familiar with them. But there is some question here about deploy problems with iOS 10.3 and Xcode 8.31. So let me look and see. I just updated my iPad to the absolute latest version when I was working on this. Let me see what version it is right now. There is a hotfix that is out for toolchain updates just because things change and we have to keep updating it. So there is a hot date for Tokyo that's out, so go get that hotfix if you don't have it already. And let's see, 10.3.2. Yeah, so I'm using the 10.3.2 iOS and Xcode 8.3.1, I believe it is. Do I still have it open? Yeah, I'm using Xcode 8.3.3, so it's newer than that. But if you get the hot fix, so I can find it real quick for you. Yeah, here's the link. I'll put the link in here for you. It's the April 2017 hot fix for Tokyo toolchain hot fix, and it's like I said, it's just because of some of the changes that happen in the platform in order to make everything connect and compile correctly. So I imagine this addresses that 10.3 and 10.3 or 8.3.1. If it doesn't, well, I know it works with the newer version, so upgrade and then you'll be able to use it. Delphi supports Android services, does C++ Builder Professional already support Android services. So Professional, if you have the add-on pack, or Professional doesn't support mobile unless you get the add-on pack. And if you get the add-on pack, let me get the link here for the RAD 2017 roadmap. We have a new roadmap that's published here just last month, and we do have the C++ Builder services on the roadmap. So they will be coming soon in the roadmap. Let's see. There's a question here about right-to-left support. We did our developer survey, and we did not see a lot of requests for right-to-left support. So it's not something that's currently scheduled in the near future on the roadmap, but it is something we're still planning to do in the further term. How soon will FireMonkey be updated to augmented reality? So actually, one of our MVPs did some augmented reality work already with FireMonkey. You can already do that. He did it with Google Cardboard. Actually, I guess it was virtual reality. But, you know, I would suspect we might have some components at some point for that. It's hard to say. Keith, we just had the announcement yesterday. So, yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. So, I don't know when we're going to have it updated, but we'll certainly look at that. Using style to make an app look the same on all devices. On iOS, though, the UI looks to have some lag. I'm not sure what you mean by lag, but yeah, that's one thing that's great about styles in FireMonkey is you can make your app look exactly the same across all devices. I didn't really get into that, but that's certainly something you can do. I'm not sure what you mean by lag, though. Okay, so John's saying that the surf demo on compiling on Windows, Google Maps complained about the T browser being too old. So the T browser on Windows, there is a workaround for that, and you can T web browser IE 11. So there's a thing you can change in the registry to tell to say you want to use the latest version of IE. So by default it uses an earlier version of IE, but you can change that in the registry there, and you can change it just for your application, and it will make your application use a later version of IE in the T web browser. Is there any sort of access to the HTML code in the web browser in the latest update? I don't know. I know I've seen some third parties are working on stuff to do that, though, so you might look around on the web and see what you can find. Simple mobile app, Android. In the trial version, I build a simple mobile app for Android, but when I install in my Android device, I don't see any controls. Will there be any limitation on this? That shouldn't be a limitation of the trial version. Let's see. I can't think of that. I would suggest making just like a single button app and trying that and see if that works. If not, you might contact me and see if, or contact support and see if there's something you can do, get some help with that. Let's see. Does the query should be always opened in order for the data aware controls to work after the user suspended and came back from a suspended state? That's a good question. I'm not sure. You may need to close it and open it. I don't think you would have to, though, because it's a local connection. So Yeah, I'm not sure. Any tutorials for moving provisioning profiles to another Mac? Yeah, you'd have to go to Apple's developer site and download those provisioning profiles again on your different Mac. Well, you might have to get new provisioning profiles. I don't know. You'd have to check with Apple on that. Yeah, so the visible controls that are invisible at design time, that was changed because of Fire UI, because to allow the variant views, which I didn't get into detail, so that you get a better idea what they're going to look like. It's hard to say on that if there's a better solution for that. When will the Apple Watch be supported? So that's something we're looking at on the roadmap. No plans immediately for that, but it is something they're looking into. There's some, so right now you can actually build for Apple Watch and Apple TV, but you cannot put it into the App Store because Apple's requiring that you send it to the App Store as bitcode and not as a compiled binary. And so we build it all the way down to compiled binary, but they want you to send it as bitcode. Currently, they don't have a specification of what the bitcode should look like. It is an intermediary format produced by LLVM, and we're using LLVM. So in theory, if we knew exactly what the bitcode looked like, we could produce that, but it's not something that's currently planned in the short term for the roadmap. Apps. Voice-controlled apps. So there are some third-party libraries out there that let you do that on Android. I'm trying to think if on iOS if you can do that or not. Yeah. Oh, as far as like Google Home, Amazon Echo, and the new Apple devices, those are all done via server-side services. So you create a web service that talks to that. So you can use RAD server and create a web server that meets that specification, register it with them, and then the device would talk to your web service, and they provide all the voice recognition and text-to-speech. So it takes a while for the press to show up. I have not seen that. I'll have to look into that as far as the lag for the styles. And Victor Luigi, put bugs into quality.embarcadero.com on those, and you can email to me as well. My email is jim.mckeeth@embarcadero.com. I guess it's not up on the screen right now, but and I'll look into those and make sure that they get looked at. Why does the Starter Edition contain any database controls? Because because that's the difference between Starter Edition and Pro. I mentioned earlier we're looking at reworking Starter at a point in the future, and it may change what it looks like, but we need to make sure that the Starter is not the same as Professional and Enterprise, so it needs to be there needs to be some differences. Looking at possibly just making it a licensing difference. How long is the Professional version trial valid? So you can get the trial is of Enterprise, which includes mobile. Peter, as far as for students, you can contact us as far as we do have some academic programs available for education and student purposes. What about support for the higher resolution on the iPad Pro 12.9 inch? I haven't looked at the specs on that. My expectation is that they've just changed the pixel density, and it's going to be the same functional pixel size, but just a different pixel density to take advantage of the larger screen. Just like between the iPad and iPad Pro, the apps run the same on both those platforms. So that's my expectation. We may end up, the multi-device bitmaps may introduce, or styles may introduce a new pixel density to deal with that, but I don't know the details on that yet because, you know, it's just a brand new announcement yesterday. But while I didn't watch it, I know that product management is all over that sort of thing, and they probably already watched it and had meetings and discussed it. They just haven't shared the details with me yet. Okay, so Victor's saying some of those bug reports are already in there. Okay, great. So if you can send me the bug number on those, issue number on those, I will make sure that they get seen and are getting fixed in the near future. Okay, well, it looks like it's already past top of the hour. Wow, we've gone over, so I'm going to have to wrap up the questions now. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us, and for all your questions, and wish you luck in your development. If you are not on the latest version right now, go ahead and get the trial, the Tokyo trial, and you can check all these things out. Start working on mobile development, and then join us tomorrow. And I'll put the slide up. I would slide for tomorrow. There we go. That works. So tomorrow we're doing platform specifics for iOS and Android. We're going to talk about accessing APIs, unique features of the platform, accessing iOS specific APIs, Android specific APIs, and a few other things in there. Also talk about some of the like camera components and stuff like that that are general hardware access, but not specific to each platform. Okay, great. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us, and I'm glad you got a lot of value out of this, and look forward to seeing you online tomorrow and at other events. Thanks so much. Bye, everybody. Daniel's asking if we'll cover an application that has more than one form. I wasn't planning to do that. Typically, what I find myself doing with applications that have more than one screen is I will use a tab control and hide the tabs, and then switch between the two. But I can also do the I'll see if I can put something in tomorrow that has one with more than one control, or more than one form tomorrow, to cover that tomorrow. See, are there any good examples of a multi-form application? I will do one tomorrow, so that you'll see one. So I'll make sure I have one in tomorrow's presentation. Tab control solution interests me also. Okay, all right. So the tab control is pretty easy. All you do is you have a tab control, and you set the tab position to hidden, and they go away, and then that way you can just switch through the tabs, and so if they click a button, you just switch to a different tab. So request here for here's the link. The replay will be available here eventually, not there yet. Question about showing how to modify a style. Not planning to do that today, but we do have other resources on that, Bruce. Send me an email, jim.mckeeth@embarcadero.com, and I can connect you with some other resources that show how to do that. Isaac's asking if there's a place that lists all the best version for all the applications in the toolchain. We have a page here. Let me find it real quick. That is the platform statuses or something like that. That lists what versions are supported and work. Platform status. Yep, there it is. And so this isn't what's recommended, but it does list what versions are supported. I will comment that I was using the latest version of iOS and Xcode with this webinar here, and it all worked just fine. So it was absolutely latest version, just that barely updated them. Can you use frames in the tabs? Yes, you can use frames in the tabs, Daniel. You can put a frame on each tab and do it that way. Thank you, Frank. So Frank's saying he has a multi-code or multi-form FireMonkey demo that he showed in Germany at Code Rage, German Code Rage, and there is the link for everybody. Fantastic. So you can check that out. He'll show you how to do. It is in German though, but usually the code translates pretty easily. How do you get the standard 3 vertical dot menu on Android? 3 vertical dot menu, 3 vertical dot menu. So there is a details style, which is, I didn't do that demo. Now there's a details style. If you go to the style lookup, there's one called, go through there, and there's a number of different styles that you'll find that are probably one of those. I think the details one is what you're looking for. Are you going to do an example of a database on the server and not on the device? On day 3, let me bring that up. We do have scheduled to do some stuff along that line. Yes. Example of creating custom glyph styles. I'm not sure you remember that, Isaac. Custom glyph styles. Are you talking about like custom icons, or custom button icons? Wasn't planning to show that, but yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you mean. It should be pretty straightforward. So, custom graphic icons. Okay, correct. So you can find any place you can get graphics. You can just load them into a multi-resolution bitmap and have them there. There's a number of great repositories, open source repositories that are liberally licensed out there that you can pull from. Google has their material design icons available that you can pull from. So there's lots of resources out there. There's a question here about the Understanding ARC webinar. There's actually a blog. If you go to community.embarcadero.com, there's a blog post that has the replay on it. Right there, top of the page, copy link address. Icons 8, yes, there's a great resource. Yeah, there's a lot of really good. It used to be it's pretty hard to find some good icons out there, but there's a lot of really good resources out there for building your own glyphs and icons and such. So check those out. Okay, so it looks like we're about out of time for questions. So if you do have any other questions, join us for the future webinars. Tomorrow we're going to look at accessing platform specifics for iOS and Android, and apparently looked a little bit at multi-form mobile applications as well. And then so tomorrow we're going to look at the some platform specifics like accessing APIs on different platforms, as well as picture cameras and stuff like that. Then day 3, we're going to look at consuming REST services and service-oriented architectures, which will include some multi-tier development where you're connecting to a database on a remote server. Okay, so thanks so much for joining us today, and look forward. We're building an app, and Pablo is saying he's having some performance issues. It could be that you are form inheritance could be causing a problem. It's hard to say for sure without seeing in more detail. If the forms are doing a lot in the different levels of inheritance and introducing behaviors, and those behaviors that kind of cascades, and it can produce a lot of slowdown. We'll cover some GPS tomorrow as well. Yes. Okay. Thank you so much, and we will talk to you all later. Bye-bye.